Amir Albazi versus Kai Kara France. I gotta tell you, I was pulling for Amir Albazi. I mean, I was pulling for him. He's an Iraqi. When I was in the military, I was an infantryman, and I did a whole tour over there, 18 months in Iraq. Some of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. A lot of these people did not know that we were over there in the country for war. I mean, that is just how like unconnected that they are. Not by choice, obviously, just the economy and where they're at as far as like the developments. We were going to towns and they didn't know who we were, but they came and they said, I mean, we're in Humvees and all this stuff, and clearly they're not going to mess with us. But they welcome us in, and they're, once you start, talking to them and, like the interpreters and stuff like that, and they've heard things here and there. They're not like, oblivious, but they don't know us. They haven't seen us. They've heard stories about these Americans and things like that. And to them, we were just kind of a story. Okay. Obviously some places, the bigger cities, we've obviously been in those presences, but you start finding out that these people aren't, your enemies and stuff like that. You got some bad people. You have a lot of people. The vast majority of them just are people trying to live their lives. And, a lot of things happen over there that hurt a lot of people. The economy will never be the same. And it'll take a long time to build back up to even where they were. And with the ways things are going, that's not here nor there. Just know that when I see an Iraqi, I get excited. I root for them. They've got my support just for being from the region that they're at. And then you got Kai Kara France. I mean, Izzy, what he has done for MMA in Australia. I mean, obviously you got New Zealand and all that stuff. I mean, it's all together, but it really is it's just one region. You have the Australian region. And the way they have their gym, it's kind of like how all gyms used to be back in the day. You just have some of the best fighters in the world all at one gym. Some of this amazing top tier talent because there's not many options over there. Now over here we have gyms for days. You can walk around your corner and find a new gym basically for MMA. There's just so many. You have so many fighters that are getting so big that they want to focus on themselves. Like that's where they are. You still have these major gyms, but you have a lot more people saying that they want their gym and their routine to focus solely on them, more like the boxing method. But here you have Izzy repping city kickboxing, and everyone in city kickboxing who's in the UFC is pretty much a decent star. I mean, you got Kai Kara France is the reason why this was a main event. Obviously, you got fights falling through. You have so many fights in UFC that they's got to have some main events. This is the first non-title flyweight man's main events since 2017. UFC has never wanted to push this division, but because of Israel Adesanya and how he just speaks up city kickboxing and all the fighters over there, their fighters are more popular because of their association with him. And Kai has a huge following. So, I mean, I like them both, but I got to be honest with you. I was rooting for Albazi. However you say his name. I heard it so many times last night. I've heard it so many times in other fights that I have him in. But when it comes time for me to say it, for some reason my brain just goes, whoa. His name definitely leaves me. But Albazi said he was going to steamroll him. And so, the UFC, when they're marketing, this tells you how great their marketing it is. You have the number 3 ranked fighter in the world, Kai Kara France, that just fought Brandon Moreno in a pretty close fight until it wasn't close anymore. He definitely showed that he belongs with the top of the division. And you have the number 7 fighter, Amir Albazi, who's not a household name, who many people don't know. Probably I wouldn't be surprised if this was many people's first fight that they actually knew who he was. I'm sure they've seen him in fights, if you're watching UFC on the cards and stuff like that. This is the first time they were like, Amir Albazi. Oh, I first time I've said his name, really. And so to sell this fight, to make this fight seem competitive, what the UFC did was They told a narrative this man was going to destroy him. And so when you have like the fighter meeting, there's probably like a 15-minute interview question here. They sit down in front of the camera and they ask you all kind of questions, but then they only show like one or two segments from all that they did, and they chose to focus on Amir talking about how he's going to steamroll Kai, and Kai talking about how he thinks he can steamroll me, but I'm the number 3 fighter in the world. I'm sure they asked Kai about what he was going to do to him and what Amir thought about that, but they decided to focus on that because that's the story that they were telling. And it works. It gets you pumped up. It gets you ready to go. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of controversy after this fight. I don't see why there's lots of controversy. I don't think Amir won. I think it was 3 rounds to 2. I gave Kai the first, the fourth, and the fifth. I think the third, fourth, and fifth rounds were pretty clear. I think they were insanely clear. I think you got Amir winning the third round, and then you have Kai winning the fourth and the fifth. The issue is the first and the second round. I think there's some people that thought that Kai just had a clear second round. And I want to know what you're smoking on, because what I was smoking on when I was watching it did not give me the same effects of the hallucinogenic things that you guys had going on, because that is not what happened there. Those first 2 rounds were insanely close. Depending on what you want to score it on, whether you want to score it on little pot shotting or bigger shots, or if you think it's close enough, because the criteria is effective aggressiveness. Effective aggression. So, how you are attacking, if you are putting in the damage. And then it's octagon control. So the person who is advancing, the person who's putting the fight where they want to put it at. So if you think that it's close enough that, Kai's pot shotting, match Albazi's, bigger shots, more effective shots, then you're looking at, okay, well, Albazi was the one taking control. But the way I had it as Albazi had the second round and Kai had the first round. But either way, if you were sitting over there and you're like, oh no, I think they robbed him. It was so clear. Those first 2 rounds weren't clear. Not even at all. If you would have gave Kai the first and the second and the fourth and the fifth, so it'd be 49, 46, I got no problem with that score. That's a perfect score. If you give it to Albazi, 48, 47, because you give him the first, second, and the third, I got no problem with that. But what I do have a problem is that Chris Lee, the reason why Albazi won this fight is because Albazi was given the 4th round on Chris Lee's scorecard. How in the ever fuck are you going to say that Albazi won that 4th round? I mean, I don't understand. One of the things that I really thought was that Albazi was going to have a wrestling advantage. I didn't think it would be easy. I mean, Kai can wrestle, but that boy can wrestle. I got to tell you. You talking about putting on shoes, getting on a mat where you got, a circle and a boundary for out of bounds. And the other person gets a point if they push you out of bounds, and you can they get points if you're stalling. Okay, Albazi clearly the better wrestler. He's gonna run circles around him if you have to engage in just wrestling, and that's what you guys are doing. But when it comes to MMA wrestling, Kai canceled him out. I mean, it was beautiful to see. I mean, the switches don't work in MMA. You don't see switches in MMA a lot. You know why you don't see switches a lot? Because people can choke you. That's why you don't see switches a lot, because people can punch you. Well, that's why you don't see switches a lot. It works in wrestling when you know that you're able to perform this maneuver and no one's going to try to take off your head for doing it. You're opening yourself up. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position to where someone can just decapitate you. But when you have a guy like Kai, who is just so fast and so explosive, and just so good at keeping himself in the right position to where if you do go for something like that, he's going to make you pay because he's good enough that all it takes, because in order to go for that choke when he's hitting that switch, you got to get out of position. You can't do that with Kai. He's small enough and is at a quick enough level when it comes to his wrestling that you have to play the positional games, and you can't give up position in order to go for something big, because then he's out of there and then maybe he's raining down blows on you. So that's one thing that I thought was just insanely, you know, how do I say it? Insanely surprising at how good his wrestling was. It impressed me, and it impressed me so much that I was sad. And when the cards were read, I was a little bit like, oh, I can't believe it. But then you go back and you see, the first and second round, okay, they were just saying close. It can go either way. But because of how impressive Kai was, how great he was at the wrestling defense, it sucks to know that he's at a setback like this because a referee can't do their job. Not a referee, a judge can't do their job. If it was, the first 2 rounds, I got no problem here. But seeing Chris Lee's scorecard for the 4th round, and in a round that was insanely clear, in a round where Albazi was tired, he couldn't do much. His hands were down. Kai was attacking. He was pressuring. I mean, it was back and forth. Albazi definitely, definitely came close to to doing some things in that 4th round. It wasn't like it was a wipeout, but it was close enough to a one-sided round that I don't think there's any kind of way you can misconstrue that. So, can we do something about the judging here? I mean, is there nothing we can do about judging? We're just stuck at a place where we just have to be like, it's MMA, we have bad judging. I don't think that's right.